نحكي بالعربي بالبداية.
I guess you start with the English this time.
Okay, cool. Do you want to tag Khawaja?
Yeah.
You're tagged already.
So are we live now?
Yeah, we are live.
Okay. So I will share.
Yeah, you can share. I mean, we can wait for the people a little bit. So just take your time.
Scholarship Network. We are live now. So I share in the group.
Amazing.
I'll share on my wall.
Shall I start?
I guess, yeah, you may start.
Okay, cool. I guess we are only 15 person now. So if we can wait a little bit, it will be better to make sure that more people will be watching this.
Okay.
So perhaps I would just speak for like 1 minute in Arabic just to tell the people that we are doing this live in English.
Sure.
مرحبا جميعا. هذا اللايف كثير سبيشال صراحة، كونه حيكون مع صديقي المهندس أسامة اللي هو ريسيرشر في جامعة أكسفورد. زي ما وعدتكم أنا في التعليقات بأنه حنحكي اليوم عن موضوع القبولات وكيف احنا ممكن نحصل فاندنج في الجامعات البريطانية، وبرضه حيحكي أسامة عن كيف ممكن تحضر نفسك للمقابلات. كل هذا اللايف حيكون في الإنجليزي لأنه في كثير ناس حيكونوا بيشوفوا من برا الوطن العربي، وسبيشالي لأنه أسامة ما بيحكي عربي. So now let's switch to English. So welcome everyone. It's actually our pleasure today to talk to you about like what we have advertised on our post earlier. So basically we're gonna be talking about how to get like admissions and funding in UK universities and how to prepare yourself for interviews. And we have a special guest today. I guess both of us are actually special guests to each other. So basically like Osama Pervez, who's gonna maybe introduce himself at the beginning to let you know a little bit about what he has done and what he's doing.
Okay, sure. And I guess you can also introduce yourself.
Sure.
So I am Osama. Hello everyone. I'm from Pakistan. So right now I'm a PhD student in University of Oxford. My major here is clinical neuroscience. So I study clinical neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and I most of the time I'm just working with brain. My background, I did my bachelor's from Pakistan, from National University of Sciences and Technology. It was in electrical engineering. The major was image processing and signal processing. After my bachelor's, for my master, I went on to an Erasmus master program. It's a joint master degree program where you spend each semester in different country. So I was in France for 6 months, in Spain, in Italy, all the beautiful places in the world.
Connection available. It seems that it is working. I guess it's working now. Okay. So as I mentioned, my name is Saad. I'm from Jordan originally. At the moment I'm doing also my PhD in clinical neuroscience at Oxford, and I'm focused in my research at the moment on integrating like something called deep brain stimulation with artificial intelligence techniques to help people who has movement disorders, mainly Parkinson. Back in the past, like I was actually working and just doing my masters in several European countries, and I have worked a little bit in the US. Actually, I've done the same masters as Osama, so we have explored together like those lovely countries like in Europe, and just at the end it ended up with both of us being like here in UK. So I guess enough about ourselves, and let's just go to the thing which we already have intended to talk about. Just I would like to mention that we're gonna basically like talk about a few things, and if you have any question about whatever we're gonna be talking about, please write your question down in the comments, and we're gonna come to the questions and answer them at the end of this like live. So we're gonna talk a little bit, we're not gonna talk much, and you're gonna ask whatever questions you have in mind. So my second question to Osama is basically about the admission in general, like in UK universities. So can you please just share your experience about how to get admitted at UK university and what's the procedure?
Perfect. So just give you a brief agenda for today. So we'll talk about first admissions, how to secure admission in a university in UK. So this is the first thing. The second thing we should be talking about, it's about how to get scholarship. And the third thing is also about how to prepare for the interviews, for the postgraduate admission interviews. So there are three things which we'll talk: how to get admission, how to get a scholarship, and how to prepare yourself for the interviews. So the first question which you have asked me, how to get admission in a UK university. So the it's so most of the people, I have seen in like last few years, they are always celebrating. There's a vast majority who get admission in a UK university, which is, I guess, it's a big achievement. But I guess the toughest thing is how to get scholarship, which we'll go and talk later on. But about getting an admission, so there are a few websites which are very designed for the UK universities. There's a website which is findaphd.com, and then there's another website which it's called EuroAccess. So you can select the country there. So in your country, you can select, okay, you're looking for admission in a UK university, and then you can also mention that, oh, you are like a European student or you are a non-European student. So you can also classify yourself, because some of the funding opportunities or some of the PhDs, they're only for the European students. So these are like few websites, as I have mentioned, like findaphd.com or like EuroAccess. But if I go like the way I was finding like admissions in the universities, so mainly my way of like finding an admission, it's finding a professor, finding a supervisor who is willing to accept me. I guess that's the trick, which most of us, we miss. Because you just apply to the university, and there's so many, they have a lot of applications, and sometimes it does not get like a priority, a lot of importance. So it's amazing, it's extraordinary if you first find a supervisor. There are a lot of details, and Said also has done a lot of lectures about how to contact a supervisor or how to write an email to a supervisor. So you first contact the supervisor, and you mention about your research interests, you introduce yourself, you also go through his website, read some research papers of him. So I guess that's it would really help you if a supervisor in a UK university, he is willing to supervise you. So once you have the supervisor, then you can go through the normal process, which is just going to the university admission portals and just applying and submitting all your documents like statement of purpose, your CV, your research proposal, and all your documents. We can break it down. Know this?
I mean, you have mentioned like great stuff, but maybe I would like just to stress on one thing regarding the admission. Osama have mentioned like that you will go to these websites like Find a PhD and EuroAccess, and what you will see actually there, it's kind of vacancies. So basically, those are kind of job positions, because in Europe in general, they look at the PhD student as like an employee. So you're gonna come and work on one project for 3 years. So you're gonna deal with those projects as like the job you're applying for. That's how does it go. Actually, sometimes, if you agree with me, you don't need to apply to the graduate school. You don't submit a formal application to the university, and because the professor himself has accepted you, he's gonna talk to the graduate school, and they're basically gonna issue the acceptance letter for you. I mean, this happened with me in like UCL, for instance.
Yeah, I guess that's a trick, we are talking about. I was accepted into UCL, in University College London, in King's College London, in University of Cambridge, in University of Oxford. Like, I don't want to boost myself, but I'm just telling you, I was accepted into all University of Edinburgh, University of Glasgow, and I was accepted on funding. So I was accepted into all these prestigious universities, and the only trick was I was always contacting the supervisors first. I was finding a supervisor, I was finding a guy who's working in that university. We have like an intersection of research interest. So I was first contacting him, and then if he's supporting your application, I guess then the journey is much easier.
Yeah, and again, stressing on the point of contacting professors, actually this would be a very nice thing for you if you got like an opportunity to be in touch with a professor who is very well connected and has like potential funding for you. Then basically this relax the stress of finding the scholarship, because maybe that guy has already funding from some funding agency or like European Union or whatever. So basically you're not gonna be looking for funding after your admission, especially like in the UK. It's a big deal to find the funding. As actually I have seen in a few of the comments that few people has already admission letters, but they don't have the funding, so they're a bit stressed about
So
it.
we'll move on to the funding part. And one more thing, it's not also very easy to find a supervisor or to find a professor who is working in the same field as of you. It's not easy. So the way I do it, so there's a thing, you have Google, everyone know about it, but there's a thing called Google Scholar. And I guess that's the best platform. So you go on to Google Scholar and then you mention your research interest. For me, if I go on to Google Scholar and then I will search, okay, artificial intelligence, so I can put different labels. I can search, okay, I want someone who is working in this field of artificial intelligence or in the field of deep learning or in the field of neuroimaging or in the field of neuroscience. So I can put different labels and then the Google Scholar, it will show me all the professors who are working in this relevant field. And from there, I know, okay, this guy in Oxford, he's working in this field. This guy in, like, let's suppose MIT, he's working in this field. So now I have shortlisted all the professors. So then I can go on to their individual websites, read more about their profile, maybe like some of their relevant papers, and then I contact them.
Amazing. I guess, somehow Osama has mentioned a lot of points about like the admission. Maybe one last little thing, then we're gonna move to the next like top subtopic, which is the funding. Actually, Osama just has mentioned that you should do your homework about knowing more about the professors. And regarding this, I would actually stress in a point that you shouldn't have one email for all the professors. You should like change your CV and your email. This is optimally and ideally like according to the research field of every single like person you're contacting. For instance, if you're contacting a guy who works in something called data mining, just try to illustrate and highlight the skills which he might need for his lab. But if you're contacting another person, for instance, like for another field which is networking or maybe wireless communication, so just try to also like stress on the points which could be useful for these things. And this can be both like illustrated in your email and in your CV. So that would be an ideal thing like to have before, let's say, starting to contact the people. So the other like top subtopic which we're gonna talk about is like the funding, which is actually a nightmare for a lot of students. So I would just again ask Osama to share his experience about how to find the scholarships or the funding if you got already admitted at university here in UK.
That's a very good question, and maybe since yesterday I have received so many questions from so many people, and all of them they're asking about the same thing. We have admission letter from University of Edinburgh or University of Glasgow, and they don't know how to get funding. And the problem here, so let's see the problem first. The tuition fees of the UK or the EU students, it's like £4,000 or maybe like £5,000, and the tuition fee of the international students for us, like for Pakistani or for someone from Jordan, it's from Arab region, it's like £25,000. So it's like 5 times higher. So we have to pay 5 times higher as compared to a EU student. So why anyone would like fund you, or why a professor he would fund me? Like he can spend the same amount of money and he can have like 3 or 4 like European students. So I would enlist, or I will tell you some of the points about how to get funding as a student in UK. You can note it down. So there are like 5 or 6 points, and if you have any questions, maybe later we can answer in the question session. So the first thing is I guess, so there are a lot of scholarships which are for your nationality. So I know in Oxford there is a scholarship which is called Wikinoon Scholarship, and every year they fund like 1 or 2 students from Pakistan in Oxford, and there must be some scholarships for the Arab student in Oxford. So the first thing, it's the scholarship which is for your nationality. So let's say, okay, you find some scholarships and you could not find any scholarship for your nationality. Okay, let's ignore it. The second thing, I guess.
So before maybe the second thing, for like Arab students who are actually watching at the moment, there are 2 scholarships which you may apply for. One from Said Foundation and the other one from like Rhodes Foundation, or it's called Rhodes Scholarship. And there is a third one which I guess from the Islamic like Center in Oxford.
Yeah, so there's
so that's a third one which basically you can consider. I mean, we're talking about Oxford. So we're talking about Oxford as an example because we study here, but actually this applies in every single university. So you just need to like pay attention to the websites of the universities.
Okay, so there's one more thing which I discovered when I was applying for admissions. There's a thing in UK universities. It's called Dean Scholarship. this is most of us, we are not aware of it. So I'm again repeating it. There's a concept, or there's a scholarship. The name of the scholarship, it's Dean Scholarship. So it's normally offered by the dean of that university. So the way this scholarship works, so if they give you the Dean Scholarship, you don't have to pay the tuition fee as the rate of an international student. You will pay the tuition fee as like you are a EU student. And how you apply for this scholarship? Let's suppose if someone has accepted you, maybe from University of Cambridge or University of like Glasgow, you maybe contact your professor and you ask him that, oh, there's a thing called Dean Scholarships, and some of the students in the past, they got that scholarship. So maybe could you ask the director of your graduate admissions, or maybe could you ask like the dean of your department, is there any Dean Scholarship left for this year? So I guess this is something which is not very trivial. I was not aware of it. I was accepted for Dean Scholarship in University College London. So this is one more thing, I guess, which you can note it down.
Yeah.
So moving on, I guess there's so the way I'm funded in Oxford, it's through my department. So the next point, I guess, it's departmental scholarships. So normally what happens, we are always looking on the university website, So there are some scholarships on the university website, which is okay. But like the department itself, sometimes they're very autonomous. They have scholarships on their own. Like I know in Imperial College London, in Department of Computing, every year they have 25 scholarships for international students. So it's interesting.
25.
Yeah, it's interesting because those like these departments, they have a lot of funding on their own. So like Nuffield Department of Clinical Neuroscience in Oxford, they always have some reserve money which they can fund if they want to. So I guess that's the important thing is, so there's a university and they have a lot of funding, but don't ignore your department, Contact your department if you are into, I don't know, Department of Biology or Department of Neuroscience or Department of Computing. See whether that department, do they have any scholarship reserve or any money which they can offer you?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's not all the time that they have the money themselves. Most of the time, some scholarship, like well-known scholarship, they talk to the Department of Neuroscience, for instance, or for biology or whatever, and they say, we're gonna fund every year, let's say, 10 students, and we're gonna give you the like opportunity of shortlisting the people based on the interview for you. So you nominate like the students for us. So for instance, in Oxford, there is something called the Clarendon funding.
Yeah.
So this is fully controlled by the department, as Osama mentioned.
So yeah, so Said, he mentioned about the Clarendon Fund. So yeah, these are scholarships by the department. Similarly, I remember I was offered LACAS, LKAS scholarship, LACAS scholarship from University of Glasgow, and that's also for the international students, and it's mostly controlled by the department. So I guess here the important things, it's your supervisor. He can get you in contact with the dean. He can get you in contact with your department. So your supervisor, as we again mentioned, he's the most powerful body in that department. He can ask from the department. He can ask from the dean. So he is the main point of contact.
And maybe one last thing, like even like some NGOs which are like concerned with funding research in general, like for instance in UK something called Wellcome Trust. It's a charity. So this Wellcome Trust, for instance, it helped in establishing new programs for PhD across several universities in the UK, and those universities, those like PhD programs, they call them Wellcome like PhD program in neuroscience, Wellcome PhD program in biochemistry, and those are in different universities. So what happens? Like that these departments, or these like basically like institutions inside the universities, those are the ones responsible of distributing this fund, which comes from a charity outside the university. So just again stressing on the point which Osama has talked about, which is the department, and as we have talked a lot about it, we probably should move.
One more thing. So there's one more thing. One more scholarship. It's like CDT.
Yeah.
So that's a very common thing in UK. These are like doctoral training programs or Center for Doctoral Training. So there are a lot of CDT tracks. Now it's almost in all the university. So I know in Oxford they have a CDT in medical imaging in collaboration with University of Nottingham. So there are a lot of CDT. There are a lot of CDT tracks, or there are a lot of CDT scholarships which are available. So sometimes nowadays when you're looking for some like position, look for some CDT like PhD opportunities, and most of them their funding, I know it's for the European, but like they have like 2 or 3 scholarships reserved for the international student.
which which might be of your luck.
But I got the
Yeah.
I got the CET scholarship from King's College London in medical imaging. So I guess this is one of the things,
Yeah.
CET track.
Yeah, again, like, it's also called DTP, Doctoral Training Program,
Yeah.
in some universities. And again, like this is the same concept. Those are funded, for instance, by the Royal Institution of Engineering and Physical Studies, I guess so. So again, like I guess it's like it's
What-
enough for department. One more.
Marie Curie scholarships. How can we miss the
that's
Marie Curie
that's another
scholarship?
thing.
But
So it's not departmental.
it's not departmental. It's mostly on the UK or the European level. So there are a lot of
I guess
programs.
Euroaccess inspired.
Yeah.
You can find it from Euroaccess.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of programs like EU 2020 or EU Horizon, I guess. So there are a lot of Marie Curie scholarships, and these Marie Curie scholarships, they're amazing. They're well paid. You know, like they pay you, I don't know, like £3,000 per month.
Yeah.
Like they're really well paid. So
you get paid more than postdocs.
so these, yeah. So I know Oxford has some Marie Curie scholarships. Like last year, I applied for one in Cambridge also. So yeah, this is one of the things. Like always look for some Marie Curie scholarships. They are well paid. Mostly it's for international students, and I guess it's worth considering.
And like for you to know, like the catalog of all Marie Curie scholarships is basically on the Erasmus like website of the Marie Curie project. So if you go there, like you will find that there is a training network between, for instance, 10 universities in Europe, where basically they want to recruit 20 PhD students for 20 different universities. So you can go there and know more about what or which vacancy or which PhD like project is open and where it is. So I mean, this actually apply on the UK ones, like the UK based ones, or the ones based in Europe.
Okay.
So are we done with the
Scholarships.
Okay.
is in-
So Sam has talked, I mean, about great points. I guess 6 points, how you get your money. But here, like, let's mention like another non-traditional like funding sources where basically I guess you should consider it. So I have seen actually a lot of students, they go to like non-traditional funding source, like like opportunities like GoFundMe, for instance, which is the online funding. So many students I have seen actually from like European countries or even from like both like Asia or Arab region, they go to GoFundMe website and they basically like write down all their goals, what they have done in their life. Then they ask for funding of, for instance, 20,000. Then this opportunity is gonna be open for everybody from all over the world to contribute toward covering the tuition fees of those students. So that's not direct forward like opportunity which everybody can do. For instance, this actually is something which you should consider. It's kind of your last option. Like another option, which I guess it is non-traditional and you may consider also, there are like for some I guess countries and some like some countries or some like organizations, they are giving like some kind of loans or like some kind of funding where you will return later on. So it can be a loan from a bank, for instance, with a reduced like interest rate. This actually is very available here in Europe. They give like European students such opportunity, so you can apply for that. And actually there is a similar one, for instance, from the Islamic Development Bank. So it is like a kind of a scholarship where you pay 50% of the money you're gonna get back to the Islamic Development Bank once you're done with that. The third non-traditional opportunity which you can apply for, like go after in order to cover like your funding like for your graduate studies, is basically reaching out to the individuals who might be interested in your research area. Like those individuals, they might be like maybe businessmen, or they might be like powerful people like in your country, because whatever you're gonna be doing during your master's and PhD, it's appreciated surely from some people. So there is no harm in trying to reach out to some businessmen who are basically interested in your area of research, where basically they might consider donating toward like your tuition fees. The last one which I want to talk about is basically reaching out to companies which they might consider hiring you after you finish your PhD or like even masters. So if I know that I'm gonna be like working on deep brain stimulation, so there is a several like companies which I can consider like reaching out to, like Medtronic or Siemens or Philips. This is kind of, there is no scheme which supports such thing, but no harm in trying, because you might end up getting in touch with the right person in that company. Then they might consider sponsoring you under the condition you're gonna go back and work with them later on. So these are like non-traditional funding, opportunities which you may consider, like to secure funding for your tuition fees.
I agree, I absolutely agree, because these universities, like Glasgow or Oxford, if you have an admission letter, these are like very prestigious universities, and they have a big name. So you just utilize your name, you can like contact the rich people, in simple words, or more influencer people or businessmen or some companies, as Saeed has mentioned, and you can look for funding, and maybe you can work with them after your graduation.
Amazing. Then like we move to the last point of our live stream. I'm sure would like to answer a few of the questions right after that, which is basically about the interview. Now we got shortlisted. We're lucky enough to reach the interview level, and we have our interview next week, for instance. So how to prepare for that in order to increase your chance to get admitted and probably get a scholarship, which is the department ones, which automatically you can be considered for based on your performance in the interview. So Osama maybe would like to start sharing about his experience as usual, because he starts always.
It's fine. So that's the thing. Maybe in when I was applying for PhDs, I gave more than 100 interviews in different universities, in different in different countries. So mostly the interviews, it's either contacted by the professors or it's by the department. So let's suppose you send an email to a supervisor or a potential professor, and he will conduct your interview, or either it will be by a department in which there will be a whole 3 or 4 people who are conducting your interviews. So in both of the cases, you have to prepare for the interview. So usually what I do for preparing for the interview, it's see the people who will interview me, I guess that's the most important thing. So sometimes, okay, this is the supervisor, I'm going to talk with him, or these are the people in the department who I'm going to talk with them. So just go on their profile, read more about their research interest, maybe try to read some of their papers, from the past. You don't have to read all the papers. You can just maybe shortlist 2 or 3 papers which are more relevant to your research interest, and read some of their work, because you cannot just go and show up in a meeting and you are totally unprepared. So it's so preparing for an interview, it's not like a magic, it's just based, I guess, on hard work.
Yeah.
You need to sit down and look on the people profile who will be taking your interview, and you prepare for the interview. I guess that's the important thing.
Yeah.
So you should be aware of their research interest. And I guess
maybe Osama, what do you think about selecting these papers? So how do you recommend them to select the paper? Don't you think sometimes some professors, they mention on their website that those are our key papers? Mm-hmm. So this somehow illustrate the important papers which you must read, or maybe you should check the papers which are very recent.
Yeah, so I agree. So I guess the trick is, so if you are doing an interview, you are like a driver who is driving your car. So you can change the direction of the car, and you can take it any direction as you want. So you are the person, I guess, who has a lot of authority in my case. So let's suppose if you have read 2 or 3 papers, you can just mention in your interview, oh professor, I have read this paper of yours and it's very relevant to my research interest. So you can mention about the papers which you have read. I guess it's a better approach, because you cannot just be aware of all of his research work. Sure. So you can mention in the interview, okay, I have seen this work of yours, and this is what I was doing in the past, and this is very relevant, or this overlaps with my research work. So just, I guess, it depends on your topic, on your background experience, and you just read few papers, and then just mention them in the interview. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, if you will not mention anything, they can ask you anything. So it's better if you just give them a playing ground. Okay, we are in this field, let's play here.
Amazing. I mean, that's actually a great point. But I would like actually to add a little bit something. There are sometimes informal interviews which the professor is interested in having with you before taking the application further, which going through the formal channel. So when you have this interview, friendly interview, informal with the professor, just try to be as easygoing and as flexible as possible, and actually try to leave a good impression. I mean, so we're humans at the end of the day, and try to kind of to target the psychology of the person by being kind, by maybe saying a nice joke which can leave like a nice impression, because actually it matters in my point of view.
I really agree. I guess these things, they matter a lot. Let's suppose if he tells you, I'm working in this project, and you're like, no, you're not flexible. You're like, no, that's my research interest, and so you have to show some flexibility. Because sometimes you think of some proposal and they are like totally based on like myth or impossible stuff, and you would never be able to do that. So it's better, I guess, if you listen to your supervisor or professors. They have a lot of like research experience, and if they have some proposals to share, just listen to them. And I guess that's like one of the other trick for the interview. It's like normally if a supervisor, he calls you for an interview, like you should have some presentation about yourself and about some of your research work ready. It does not have to be like 100 like slides. Maybe you can have one slide about yourself, or 2 or 3 slides about your research work. So let's suppose you're talking, in the interview. So it's better if you are like, if you can share your screen and you can show some of the results from your last project, or so, because when you're talking, that's one thing. But if it's visual, if you can show him some proof, maybe if you have some nice Android application and there's some demo available, and there's a video of like 20 or 30 seconds, maybe you can ask him in the interview, I will share my screen, and is it possible that we can see this work of mine for like few minutes? And I guess this really has a huge impact, because if you share some of your research work in the form of figures, or like in like PowerPoint slides, I guess this was always very helpful for me, to be honest. I always had some slides ready for a few of my projects and about myself, and I was always ready to open my PowerPoint and share with him.
Like, that's very important point, especially when you are young and you don't have the papers which are published, because the only proof otherwise that you did really some project and you basically have done nice work is that you published some paper. So that's a great opportunity for you to just show projects which hasn't reached the level of publication, so you can leave the good impression that you are very good, for instance, in using MATLAB for like analyzing EEG signals, or for you're very good, like for instance, in like using SPSS, for instance. So that's very nice thing to show, like a little bit about your maybe graduation project or little project you have done like over summer or whatever. So that's nice, as Usama has mentioned.
I guess the last thing, which is like very general, it's about asking questions, like it's always good, to clarify things, to ask like questions, so it should be like it's in every interview, whether you're going for like some industrial position or a PhD position. I guess you need to bring your courage, and ask questions, ask, maybe you have read something on his profile, and ask him, okay, this is the paper I have read, and I have like these questions from these papers. He would be so much impressed, So I guess that's one of the last thing, always in the interview, don't be like on one side, and he's asking you a lot of questions and you are just answering, If you go this way, you will be screwed, It's better if you like participate, if you also ask him questions, So then it's like a both-way traffic, like a two-way traffic.
I mean, that's an amazing point, because again, it's about the impression. I know there are some forms which they fill about your performance. I agree, yes. This is how does it go, like in a standard, in a standard way. But it's about the impression you leave. So make sure that you just like you get to know a little bit about the background of the person, so you can like ask some smart questions which can leave good impression. One point actually, maybe I would like also to mention that, as we have mentioned earlier, that this is a job position. So it's very important to read like very well the proposal which they have written, and what are the requirements and what are the qualifications they are looking for. And during the interview, when you introduce yourself, try to highlight those things. If like they have mentioned in the PhD post that they want someone who is experienced with Python and MATLAB, then while you're like talking about yourself at the beginning and telling them what you have done, say that this made me like a very good programmer in Python and MATLAB, just because the point they are like trying to check who has these skills which are very relevant to our post. So it's very important that you read the post very well and know what is the project which they have as they have described, do a little bit more research to understand the things which you didn't understand from the post itself, and try to illustrate and highlight the experience you have, and coordinate it in a way that you can show them that you have the skills which this post needs.
I guess, yeah, that's important. And I guess one last thing which I will add, it's like, I will recommend you always be honest. I have seen in some CVs people, they have mentioned like they know like 10 programming languages or 15 programming languages. That's, maybe it's possible, but in most of the cases it's not possible. And sometimes, like when you are in the interview, they can ask you to code. They can ask you to program. Okay, you have mentioned in your CV you know Java, so let's sit and program in Java.
So I guess you freaked them out.
Yeah. So I guess it's always better in life to be honest. And if they ask you something and you don't know, you can say, you're a beginner, you're learning, and you're working on it. So like, be who you are.
Yeah, but that's one thing. I mean, people understand when you tell them be who you are, that, oh, I'm not confident in programming MATLAB, so I shouldn't mention it. So that's wrong. Like, what you should do, you should be humble about the things you know, but you should also highlight everything you know. So if you know a little bit of Python, write Python, and not right next to it, beginner.
Yeah.
So because the point here, they are looking at the CVs to make sure that you're reaching the CV, like the interview level. You should actually demonstrate everything you have, because there are gonna be people who are like knowing 4 languages, and basically you don't know what's the mentality of the person doing the shortlisting. So yes, be humble, but at the same time try to mention things as really they are, and that will help actually just for the shortlisting thing.
Yeah, and I guess one last thing which I will mention about reaching an interview. I have seen in last few years so many posts that your CV, it should be like a 1-page CV or like a 2-page CV. I don't agree with it.
I don't agree. Yeah.
I don't agree. So my CV when I was applying for PhD, it was 11 pages. And what was the length of your CV?
Maybe 14 or something, or like 13. So basically the point, both of us actually, we follow the similar style, which I have actually mentioned in one of the lives which I have shared, that basically before the PhD level, probably you don't have anything to show off really. You don't have a paper where they can Google it and just say, oh, look at his paper, it's amazing. We don't have it. So it's really useful if you can mention everything you have done in a nice way, so you can show the people like who are gonna read your CV that you have really done something. Actually, we were like with like Heidi Johannesburg, like who was like a director of our research center. So she was mentioning that I would like those people who are applying to write down the scholarship they got and how prestigious it is, because it's nice mentioning everything, because I know you're coming to the PhD level, probably you don't have the papers. So it's nice that you mentioned that you have done that research internship, you have done that little project, and try to actually, this is CV advice, try to put them from the most important to the least important.
Yeah.
Because basically, normally, like, this is our psychology as people. Like, we check at the beginning the head of like the first page or second page, then like we lose interest, or we go to each subsection and we see the first 2 things, then we stop, we go to the next one. So make sure that the best you have, put it at the beginning.
Yeah, and one more thing, try to explain them in proper English. Mostly it's like one line, I did this, and you don't explain. No one knows what you're doing in your room, or in your own university. So like, if you are mentioning a project, just like write like a 2 or 3 line, a proper description about that project, so someone can actually understand what you are doing. If you are working in some community or some like volunteer organization, and you just mention the name, I volunteered there, but you don't explain what that organization is, no one will know. Maybe in Pakistan people know, but most of the people in UK, they are not aware of the organizations in Arab or in Pakistan. So try to explain whatever you're mentioning, so it's clear to everyone.
So if you studied maybe at NUST in Pakistan, or maybe at JUST in Jordan, so just say that those are the best universities in our countries. So I'm just a student of that university. So always kind of stress on the strength points you have in your interview and in your CV, because this will help a lot.
Yeah, this reminds me. So I was giving an interview in University of Toronto, and so he was asking me about the admission process in NUST, like in the university from where I studied, and I told him like every year maybe like 50,000 or more people apply, and it's very competitive, and they only accept like 1,000 students. And he was telling me that mention this in your statement of purpose. So when you are applying, when you are applying for the department scholarships or anything, mention the things, because the thing is, we are from like developing countries. We suffered a lot, and most of the people, they are not like really aware, of what we are going through or how competitive it is in our countries. So I guess try to explain these things in a good manner.
Yeah, during the interview, that's nice, because the people, they kind of start measuring your like qualifications and achievements based on how hard it is like to do that. And maybe one last thing I actually wanted to mention, like I forgot that actually.
Maybe you remember.
Yeah, maybe I will remember.
Let's go to the question.
Yeah. So just we have talked about the three topics: admission, like how to get funding, and finally how to like conduct a perfect interview. Yeah, I remembered actually the point. The last point about the interview: see who are attending the interview. There is no harm before you go to the interview to send an email and say, please, can you mention who's gonna like who are the like committee members who are gonna be in my interview. So they're gonna mention to you, it's not gonna be one professor, it's gonna be like 4 guys. So make sure while talking to those people, talk in a language that they will all understand it. I'm saying this because basically if you go and talk pure machine learning or pure biology and you have like a person from another field, then basically he's gonna feel like kind of left out, and probably he's gonna give you a bad evaluation. So make sure like when you introduce your project or introduce yourself, you speak in the most general language. When it's needed to go into details, go and tell the details. This is especially if you're not talking with an expert.
Amazing. I agree. You should know the people like who you're talking with.
Yeah, amazing. So we're gonna go now to the questions, and we're gonna answer these questions like me and Osama. Then we're gonna conclude. I hope so far you have enjoyed what you have actually mentioned. So we're gonna start from here. Okay. So what's about engineering? So Noor is asking whatever we have mentioned, it applies in all fields.
I agree.
So how to write a proposal statement if I want to have MS degree in a different field of my bachelor study? Please answer me. Okay, would you like to take this?
How to write
like a personal statement if this is in a different field?
Yeah, so I can answer this for like Bara, that's the name?
Yeah, Bara As-Sardi.
So Bara, like my bachelor's, it was in electrical engineering, and for my master, I went to a different field of medical imaging, and for my PhD, I went to a totally like a different field of neuroscience. So there was a lot of transition. So somehow you have to justify, and the way I guess through which you can justify, it's about maybe tell them that you have attended these online courses or these workshops, and so you obviously you want to change your field, and okay, these are the research interests which I want to explore, but you still need to show some relevant experience. So you can tell them, okay, these are the courses which I have taken, or these are the workshops which I've been going through. Maybe if you want, you can say I have done some volunteer, or I've done some like volunteer work in these organizations. So I guess you can always show like your like little bit of experience through such kind of like workshops, or like like these volunteer stuff.
Amazing. I mean, I agree with everything Osama said, but I would like to add that you should know guys, girls and guys. So you should know like people that everything you have like in terms of experience, it can fit everywhere. Because when you go to neuroscience is a huge field. For instance, it needs engineers, it needs doctors, it needs like even like maybe artists, like to make the different like kind of things which can maybe visualize different parts of the brain. So make sure you push in the skills you have which might be useful for that person. That's how does it go. So that's how. So you illustrate these skills in your personal statement, which can show that you're worthy, like the opportunity to join that group.
Yeah, and one more thing, like you can always show your motivation, okay, like if you want to change your field, what's the reason, So I was writing in my statement of purpose, like when I want to go for biomedical engineering, I was mentioning the situation of hospitals in Pakistan and how many problems we are facing. So let's suppose if there's a problem in some fMRI scanner or some machine, there's no one to fix it. So my country, it needs people like me to go and study, let's suppose, biomedical engineering or neuroscience, because we don't have such people and we need it. And so there's a problem, and you are motivated to solve that problem. I guess that's
amazing. I guess we go like to the next question, Sadia Imran, she say, is Erasmus connected with any UK based university? Yes, it is. Like, I think she means that, is there a, like, you can go from Erasmus to UK university?
So,
Or
until Brexit, I guess for now it's connected because Erasmus is a European Union initiative, and they are UK universities in Erasmus. Like, there's a program, its name is Vibert in Erasmus, and people they spend a semester here in Hereford in UK. So Erasmus is connected with the UK, and there's a semester. So Erasmus, it's a lot of types of Erasmus. There's one Erasmus joint master degree program. So then most of the people they go for some other Erasmus, which is like exchange in some other university. So I have seen a lot of people here in UK, they're coming on Erasmus. So yeah, Erasmus is connected.
Yeah, I agree with Sam. I just actually I'm laughing because while going down in the comments, I have seen all Osama's family are proud of him, but nobody is proud of me.
Where are the Jordanian people?
Where are you Jordanians? Why don't you mention, like, all the Pakistani guys? They're saying they're proud of their son.
I guess the reason is we are 200 million, you know, and you're only 9 million.
Actually, Sam is doing great work. Actually, I'm privileged, like, to be his friend. So there is another question here. I cannot read the name. Can you please, Sam, read?
Which one?
Oh, I guess it's gone. Is it?
No, that's about me.
So the question is gone. I'm sorry. It was there. Okay, maybe here.
Yeah. Please tell us how to write SOP for Oxford or any top university.
Okay, we will.
That's
a total, like, you know.
That's like a 2 hour.
To be honest, I have talked about that, like, in my previous live. So for the SOP, like, to apply for universities, we probably can maybe make a live video later on to talk about that. So maybe let's skip this and let's focus on the topics which we already have.
Funding, interview, and admission. SOP is a part of it. It's another story.
What did I need to improve my skills to get to Oxford Department of International Relations? Okay, would you like to comment on this, or shall I comment?
So I guess what skills you need to get into any prestigious university? I guess so. There are a few obvious things, I guess, which you need. One is like your bachelor's degree and your GPA.
Yeah,
some people say the GPA does not matter, but I guess it matters. You know, it might not matter if you're going for a job, but I guess to get into these universities, you should at least have a respectable GPA. You know, you should not have a GPA of 2 or 2.1 out of 4. You know, at least have like more than 3 or like more than 3.5. So GPA matters. I guess your research experience matter if you have worked in some company or like some organizations. So this like industrial experience matters. And I guess one of the most important thing here is your research papers or your publications. So especially for PhD, if you're applying for a PhD position, it's so important like to have like few publications. You know, I know in master or in bachelor it's not easy to publish, but I guess that's the advice which I would like to give it to you. Try to publish. You know, you don't have to publish in Nature or Science, you know, or in those big fancy journals, you know. And you don't have to publish in some Indian journals, you know, that's also like not worth it. But try to publish in like, you know, somewhere in the middle, you know, like maybe like somewhere in IEEE, you know. So have some publications on your CV. It always look good, you know. Publication will always help you. And I guess in Oxford they see a lot of creativity, you know. They want like a person, because here the problems or the challenges we are solving, you know, it's not trivial. So they need someone who can address those challenges with more confidence, who is confident in his skills, in his ability, and who can think outside, you can say, outside the comfort zone, or who can be more creative.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
I guess you have mentioned everything. So
this is one question: are the people who get into Oxford really extra genius? I guess there are genius people everywhere. You know, when I was in Pakistan, I was thinking like people from my Pakistani university, they are genius. I'm here. They're always like, of course, there are great people here. But I guess you should never doubt yourself. And so it depends. I guess genius is one thing and hard work is another thing. I'm a kind of person which believes more in hard work. So if you work hard, you can be extra genius.
I don't think, like, talking about myself, I don't think I'm genius, but I'm at Oxford. So basically it's about like, that's something actually we haven't mentioned that I guess we should have mentioned. You should make sure that you apply to as many places as possible. That's my approach, and I guess that's Osama's approach. We really applied to a lot of universities till we got at the end maybe 10 offers. Then we choose the best of it. So like genius thing, I don't agree with. I don't think really anybody can rely on smartness. I guess we all should rely on something which is hard work. Just do your best, work on several projects, sharpen your skills, and apply for whatever opportunity you're interested in
And
going
yeah,
for.
this is very important thing. There are few people and they're saying me, I wrote an email to this supervisor and he's not replying me, and now I'm discouraged, or like my heart is broken. So you don't always have to rely on one person or one supervisor. Those people, those supervisors, they are so busy. They are getting like maybe 100 emails in 1 hour, So I guess like have like plan A, plan B, plan C, maybe email like 10 or 20 people, Of course it should be like very, personalized to that person. But like I guess if you want to increase the probability of getting admission, you should apply to more places and you should contact as many people as you can.
Yeah, there was actually a question which, if you don't have a scholarship, if you don't have a publication, can you get into like a PhD at Oxford? Or
I know people.
yeah, I agree. You can actually, and this actually brings us to the points which we have mentioned. How you just market yourself in the best possible way. There are a lot of students which we have actually here in our department and like in the university. They don't have actually publication yet, and they are there. So it's not all about the publication, but here like we're saying publication because like maybe my university ranking is bad. So we want something like to kind of help if my university ranking is bad. So just it's fine, but it's good if you have the publication, but if you don't have it, this doesn't mean that you're not gonna be admitted.
I like this question. So, what experiences you had during Erasmus which helped you get into Oxford?
That's nice. I guess you can start.
So, I guess Erasmus, it's a great platform. You have the chance to work in. For us, it's a joint master degree program, as I explained in the beginning. So we were in like 4 different universities. So you have a chance. You can work in a lot of different research groups. You can make more connections. You can know a lot of people. So I guess that's a good thing about Erasmus. So I did a scholarship. I did like an internship in Netherlands in Radboud University Medical Center. I went to Duke for my master thesis. So I guess it gives you like a lot of prestigious names on your CV. There's a downfall also that you're only spending 6 months in each university. But I guess for Erasmus, it's enough. Like the courses, they are like well designed, well tailored, and so I guess this is one of the great experience like we had during Erasmus, which helped us getting into Oxford.
And also, yeah, I mean, actually, Sam mentioned everything. I would like to maybe to move so we can cover as many questions as possible.
Okay.
So here, the online courses, maybe I will take this. So for the online courses, which Osama has mentioned, not necessarily you need to pay money for that. There are edX and there are Coursera and these platforms. You can go there and study machine learning by the best professor in Stanford, like Andrew Ng, for instance, and you don't pay any money at all. So basically, those online courses, it's basically to sharpen your skills and expand your knowledge. It's not for you to show off. I mean, like when it comes to the postgraduate things, nobody cares that you have the best degree. All people care that can you finish the job, which you will have during the PhD or not. So it's about the skills mainly.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of courses. So let's suppose you were talking about the course by Andrew, Nick, or NG, whatever his name is, about deep learning. So you can attend those courses for free also. Like there's an option in his course that you can view this course as a moderator. So you can be a moderator. You don't have to moderate anything, but you can access all the materials for free. So yeah, you can. So I guess you can always find a lot of courses for free.
Agree. Maybe that's the question. So does self-study enough or no? A lot of experience. So
how can I learn artificial intelligence? That's a question.
I guess you take this.
How
You're the artificial intelligence expert. No?
I will take for sure. I'm not an expert, but I will take the question.
Yeah.
So how can you learn artificial intelligence? I guess the way I started learning artificial intelligence is attending these courses. That's the first step. The second step is there are a lot of data online. Like there are a lot of data sets available online. So you always put your skills to practice. I guess that's the way, so there are always a lot of challenges also happening, like let's suppose in medical imaging and artificial intelligence community. So it's always good to take part in those challenges also. Like there are a lot of challenges by Kaggle, and so I guess that's the thing. First, it's about like learning all the skills which are required, which you can learn through YouTube tutorials or these all online courses. The second is putting all your skills to practice, which you can go and participate in different challenges, or you can access any data set online and try to like maybe solve like a simple problem. So I guess that's how you can improve your skills. And if you want some challenges and some of your codes are available online on GitHub, I guess that's a really strong thing for your CV.
Amazing. So Sahir is asking, if I have a bad CGPA, would publishing in very good like conference like help in like getting into Oxford or MIT or Cambridge or Harvard? So that's actually a bit like like critical, yeah, because most of these universities, they have actually this criteria that you cannot apply or you're not gonna be even considered unless you have 3.5 out of 4, for instance. But there is the option always, like publishing in a best like conference, for instance. You can get in touch with the professor and you can, maybe he can do something about that. If it didn't work out, there is this little thing which you can consider doing, which is basically like applying to a university which can accept this GPA, then like having a deal between your current university and the professor in this top university, so you can have your degree from like 100, like not MIT, other universities, and basically spend all of your time at MIT or Harvard or Oxford. And I know a lot of students actually, they are affiliated to universities, for instance, in some country, and they're doing all their PhD in Oxford. Yeah, and then at the end of the day, you're having the experience of Oxford by being located at the lab, because you cannot go and get the admission and get the degree from that university. So it's fine. You can have your degree from somewhere else by making an agreement between the two supervisors.
Yeah, it's very important, the joint PhD programs, so I guess you can always consider this.
This is not even join. Like join is basically if the program is available, but this is a kind of, again, informal way to do the PhD.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention, if your GPA is bad, try to explain it in a logical way. Maybe in undergrad you were studying some subjects which you were not interested in, but now maybe in your master you discover your passion, and now what you're doing, you're absolutely perfect in it. So you can justify, that okay, like these were the problems, but now I have changed my path, now I'm on the right direction, I have done these courses, I have now these papers. So this shows, okay, like there's a hope.
Yeah. Just like thanks for the Jordanians who has mentioned that they are proud of me.
Yeah,
sorry,
finally.
I forgot that. Finally you're there. I'm just kidding. No, I was just kidding actually. So for Zainab, she's asking if she has for like kind of different work experience which are irrelevant to the PhD. How can she deal with this in order to apply for PhD? So
but why not she apply for the PhD in which she has experience?
Yeah, that's something.
But maybe she doesn't want to.
Anyway, like if you have the irrelevant like work experience, in my point of view, there is nothing totally irrelevant. You can always try to find the common things between like the irrelevant work experience and the post which you are going to. But if you find them totally irrelevant, you could actually try to avoid maybe mentioning them at all, because they are not useful.
Yeah, but those skills, they always get, like, maybe it's good for your soft skill, for your personality. Maybe you learn some organization skills, or you learn how to manage people.
Or in your SOP, you should mention these ones and say why you did them.
Yeah, and
why you haven't like gone to a field where basically is very relevant to your experience.
And what's the benefit of those skills? What you learn from these things. So you have to show these things were not useless. You learned something from these irrelevant experiences,
like management things, way of dealing with your lab members, and those all are skills which are actually needed for your PhD life, because you need to deal with your lab mates, you need to maybe be disciplined, you need like to work under pressure. So you can look positively at all of these things and make sure that you illustrate that in the best possible way.
All of these skills matter a lot. They want someone who can communicate, who can handle people. So they're not just looking for like someone who is just like a programmer. So they want like complete package, I guess, for PhD.
Yes. So we're gonna just go because, so here, I do a DPhil in applied math.
Should I go for PhD in?
MPhil, Master in Philosophy. Okay. A PhD in. Can you get? I mean.
Yeah, like the thing is, so if there's a question, can you get a scholarship? I guess there's always like an optimistic answer. Yeah, you can definitely get a scholarship. And you should always apply for PhD if that's what you want to do. You should not apply for just PhD if you. I don't want to say things, but I guess if you are motivated to know more about this field and you see like you are really interested in it, because PhD it's a big commitment. So don't apply for PhD because you just want to escape from, let's suppose, Pakistan. I know. So I guess that should never be a reason, because PhD it's a long journey, it's a tough journey. It will take 4 years. It might take all the energy from you. So apply for PhD if you are interested.
Yeah, just one thing actually, Isam has mentioned that publishing in a Q1 and a Q2 journals is not that hard, but it's not that easy. And I actually agree. There are you should really give it a try. When you have some work which you want to publish it, try to send it to the best possible place. And if basically it doesn't work out, just go a little bit, down in the impact factor and etc. That's a bit irrelevant, but I just wanted to mention it. So
the quantity is good, but quality always matters.
Mahira, it's asking about your Duke experience and how did it make it work with Erasmus.
Okay, so I understand the question. The question is, I was on Erasmus, which is a European program. So how I went to Duke. Duke is a university in North Carolina in America.
That's the last question.
Yeah. So actually, you can go. So I talked with my program administrators in Erasmus, and I asked for their approval, and I guess they were flexible regarding it, and there's no official thing, or there's no law or rule which can stop you from going outside Europe. The only problem is they might stop your funding, or they might stop your Erasmus scholarship for maybe 2 or 3 months. But if you're fine with that, you can always go for your master thesis even outside Europe.
Yes. Would you like to take that last question?
Bad CGPA in both BS and MS, but GRE 321. Spent most of my time in studying philosophy books, but now want to apply for PhD in environment policy. That's the toughest question of my life. I shouldn't laugh. Can I read the question again? I forgot.
So maybe I would start, tell Osama. So it's nice that you have spend a lot of time reading these philosophy books, and actually you should consider mentioning the positive of reading such books and expanding your knowledge in philosophy for your policy kind of thing. But it will be a bit hard maybe reaching to universities like Harvard or those top 10 universities, because unfortunately they are superficial. They look mainly at the GPA and at these things, because they have a lot of applications and it's really hard. But if you would you can actually maybe work a little bit on your profile, and then publish few papers and try to get the PhD in somewhere, then do postdoc in top universities.
So I know a lot of people who could not publish maybe in their bachelor's or master, and then they took 1 or 2 years off. They work in some research group and they publish few papers, and then they applied for PhD. So if your GPA is totally bad and you just want to go in a different field and you want to go to a good university, I guess you need some research experience and relevant publications, as you have answered.
So I guess we should conclude, right?
Yeah,
we're done. So it was really amazing session. I would like really to thank Osama for his contribution. It was really great points, which I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself. So thanks a lot also for everyone who has attended. I would appreciate if everyone can share this live so it can reach as many people as possible.
Just one thing, would we be able to save this live?
Yeah, it's gonna be saved on my page. So you can share it, and basically you can share it with whomever you want, but it's gonna be on my profile all the time, so you can come back and listen to it. So would you like to say thank you for the people?
Thank you. It was honor, being in your life, and I hope it was beneficial for you guys, and you learned something useful, and I really wish you good luck for your future postgraduate applications. We are always here. If you have any questions, you can always contact us, and we would be happy to help you. And just good luck. Stay confident, be optimistic, and apply for as many universities as you can. I know it costs some money for application process, but still explore as many options as you can. Apply to not only to UK. This session was focus a lot on UK, but apply to countries like Germany, in which there is no tuition fee. Apply to different countries, different universities, and really good luck. Best wishes from my side.
Yeah. So I would like just to speak a little bit, like maybe 30 seconds in Arabic, because a lot of people, they were actually Arab, and probably some of them they haven't understood. So I would like just to mention, if anyone wants any help, like later on, you can always like reach out. I would like to mention it in Arabic, then we're gonna like end the session. لكل أصدقاء اللي سمعوا لللايف في العربي، وإذا حدا ما كان عنده مشكلة أو كان عنده مشكلة بشكل أساسي بيفهم بعض الأشياء اللي كنا نحكي فيها في اللايف، فما في أي مشكلة إنكم تتواصلوا معي وتسألوني عن أي شيء. شكرا كثير للناس اللي تابعوا، و we hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Bye bye.